Hey, Derek in Orlando. What's up, my brother?
Hey, John. I'm good. How are you?
You know what, man? Awesome. I'm doing awesome. You?
I am excited to be talking to you.
I am more excited to be talking to you. Trust me. So what's up, dude? How can I help?
Hey, well, first I want to say I appreciate everything the show is doing for this generation and just in general. I feel like I relate to the show on so many levels. A weakness for sour gummies. I own a Strat and a Les Paul. So it's like
that's
I'm
the devil and the
friends.
angel on both on either shoulder.
I know you can love it or hate it, but that's where it's at.
Well, good for you, brother. Thank you so much, man. What's up, dude?
Hey, so my wife and I want kids, and we've been talking about starting for years now, probably about 5 years. But navigating that with the nature of my wife's job, coupled with depression she's struggled with throughout our marriage, is contributing to a lot of anxiety for her and preventing us from being able to move forward in that regard. I know her concerns are valid. So how do I best love and support her as she struggles through those anxieties while still kind of validating my own disappointment with these things kind of preventing us from being able to move forward and, not necessarily being where I thought we would be at this point?
That's awesome, man. That's a great question, Derek. What's your wife do? What about her job?
So
she can't have kids.
It's not so much that she can't have kids. She's a performer and an entertainer. So she does acting, singing, dancing. And the big concern is kind of the physical toll that a pregnancy might take, the bouncing back from a pregnancy, the concern that maybe she won't bounce back, or maybe there'll be a complication, or, her physical appearance will change significantly to the point where she doesn't get to do that anymore. And it's such a large part of her, and she derives so much passion from it, that idea scares her to death.
So she doesn't want kids.
I don't. She vehemently tells me that she does, but these anxieties are so strong that it's gripping to her. I mean, I can tell even just in the conversations that we have when it comes up that there's this downward spiral that happens with this idea that I may lose this part of myself.
Yeah.
That has been such a strong source of her identity, and rightly so. She's incredibly talented.
Sure.
Very capable.
This one's hard, man. And I'm gonna be upfront and honest with you best I can, okay? This one's hard.
Please.
Man. She's trapped in a fear cycle right now that is going to be tough to escape from. And this isn't just for entertainers. This is also for lawyers. And this is not only, it's women carry the burden of this fear cycle, but men do too. It's being a lawyer. It's being a TV show producer. It's being an executive of any sort, a salesperson. Here's the thing that a lot of parents don't wrap their head around. People before they become parents. Everything about who you are before you have kids changes after you have kids. All of it. Priorities, body, thoughts, what brings you joy, what used to bring you joy, what doesn't bring you, all of it. Everything changes, and it's terrifying, scary. One of the biggest problems is the word I'll use. One of the biggest problems I see couples make when they have their first kid is they try to recreate, they try to drag their past into the future. We could just have sex during a lunch break on a random Tuesday. You can't do that when you have a kid sometimes. We could just pack up and leave town on a weekend and not think. You can't do that when you have a kid. Everything changes. Getting that next promotion sometimes isn't that cool anymore. It's cool, but it's really cool hanging out with my kid. Or I don't want to hang out with my kid. It's boring and it's not as fun as I thought. All this, everything changes is what I'm saying. That fear feels... I think if your wife was doing another job, that fear would still be there, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think this is more about kids than it is about being an actress. And I could be way off, and I'm not talking to her, I'm just talking to you. I know too many actresses, too many people in the profession that have multiple children, and you make it work. And yes, you age, and yes, your body changes, and sometimes it changes. Everybody changes everything. The idea, how about this? The idea that, how old is she now?
She's 30 now.
Okay. She's going to be different at 33. She's going to be different at 35. She's going to be different at 40. Differences in her body and her abilities and her appearance, those things are all going to happen to all of us, whether we have kids or not. Now, I don't want to undermine actresses and actors, especially actresses, have a different type of pressure. It's real. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same, let's take acting off the table. Let's take my job, for instance. I have a lot of opportunities to go speak all over the country at corporate events, private events, all kind of stuff. In one breath, I can say, I really want to spend more time with my kids. I really do. And when Justin, who handles all of the speaking contracts, calls and says, hey, I got another one for you for this much money. And I go, yeah, I'm in. What I have said, what I've demonstrated is that I want money more than I want to spend time with my kids right now. I'm not going to judge that. That's a fact. That's what I just did. Or I could say, I want to spend more time right now with my kids right now, so I'm going to turn this speaking gig down. It's an either or proposition. And the only way I have seen through that, I've been able to navigate that, is through what my friend Christy Wright called this. It's the seasons. It's to say, this season, I want to pay this stuff off. In this season, I don't want to have a mortgage. In this season, I want to pile up cash. And so the cost of that is going to be time with my family. And when we're all on the same page, we're all talking about it. Then, as you mentioned earlier, this picture you had that looks different, we're all on the same page about what that looks like. Right now, your wife can say she wants kids, and that's cool, but she doesn't. She wants to be an actress. And she wants to keep the picture of being an actress alive as long as possible because she's scared about what's going to do to her. And I'm telling you right now, there's deeper fears than that I think you'll need to go talk to a marriage counselor and talk through. I think there's deeper things here than that. There's just too many people in the profession that have kids that things are great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So we both have been talking to therapists individually and then reading through, like, for example, we started reading the Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
Good for you, dude.
Like, for one chapter in, like, she's teary-eyed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is her. And I think you're absolutely right in the sense that there are people who are peers with her in the roles and the capacities that she's doing who do have kids. Yeah. It's possible. Absolutely. What do I do? I mean, what can I do in those scenarios, in those conversations? I mean, I can't imagine that saying back to her is like, yeah, you're right. It will be completely different. Yeah. It will, like, you probably will lose this, or like, I can't imagine that's going to be helpful, but do I need to bring that kind of dose of reality to it?
It's when you phrase it like loss, you will lose this. That's a scarcity mindset. It's not looking at every single thing you're going to gain. And it's looking at, there is a finite amount of this. And if I don't have that, everything is over. And you can't do that kind of math with kids. You can't do that kind of math with family expansion. You can't do that kind of math with healing. In the previous call, when I was just talking to that young woman about, she's got so much rage in her because of what her dad did to her mom, that she can't at this moment let that go enough to not lose her current fiance because she's so full of rage and anger. It comes these moments of these either or propositions. And what she doesn't understand is if she let go of that rage and turned to and accepted love and worked hard on love, she has no idea how good that would feel. Right now, it's all about safety and protection. And your wife's in a similar situation. She's got the whole idea of being an actress and an entertainer. It's all scarcity mindset. There's one role and 500 people trying to get that role. That's just the nature of that business. I'm in that business. It's tough. it's hard to live into non-scarcity mindsets, right? That everybody wins on these deals. And this idea that, man, I don't care who you are. When you're 30, your skin looks different than it did when you're 20. Your body looks different. When you're 40, dude, homie, it all goes sideways, right? It just happens. And that's why I don't think this has to do with this. So what I've seen in these kind of situations, and I've mostly seen this in academic situations. I have a friend of mine, she's an incredible scholar. Her husband's an incredible scholar. They have lost out on jobs because she is, quote unquote, a breeder. She is somebody who had kids and wasn't totally dedicated to her academic slice. They called her a breeder, for crying out loud, okay?
Yeah.
What I've seen this over and over, and ultimately what people try to do is they start trying to solve the kid question. Do we have a kid, not have a kid? Do we have a kid, not have a kid? That's not the issue. The issue is I've got to be at peace with who I am, where I'm headed, where I'm going with my spouse. What do we want this thing to look like 5 years, 3 years, 6 years down the road? And we're going to take this in seasons. What's this season going to look like? Let's be on the same page about, let's do 6 months of going all in. Or let's do 12 months of going all in. And then let's reevaluate and see where your career's at, where my heart is with having kids, where your heart's having kids. And let's be honest about that season. But it's you have to do, brother, you got to let your picture go. You got to let that sucker go. It's not going to be what it was. You thought you'd have 2 kids by now when you're 30. You don't, okay? You're going to have to grieve that picture. It's not happening. It's not reality. Cool. Let's get intentional about making a new one. And let's get really intentional about healing, because your wife is scared about other things and it's coming out with work and kids. And anybody listening to this, wrestling about this conversation, you got to step away from the kid thing, because it becomes the proxy war. It's not the real challenge here. Does she have a tough road growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think a lot of this, the validation that she receives from work,
there you go,
is exactly where, like, that's the loss.
Yeah.
I think that's where the loss is. It's not the field, it's not the profession, it's the
validation,
the success.
Yeah,
the success and the validation that she's had there, because she didn't get a lot of that growing up.
And so I think it's good to affirm that's real. It's real. That validation's real. Yeah. It feels real. It's not. It's fleeting, and it will go away soon. Right? They'll find the next darling, and it will be on to the next.
Right.
If I'm you, and this is my wife, and we're working through this together, I want to back all the way out of the kid conversation and ask, where are we headed? How can we heal from these childhood wounds? How can we make some decisions about what kids are going to look like? And then we got to put some stuff on the calendar, and we got to be highly intentional about it. There will come a moment, probably be best to have a counselor in the room, when somebody calls her on the math that she's trying to do that's not working. I really, really want kids, and I really, really want this. Well, it's going to cost you one or the other. And by the way, it's not. You can be both. But there will be a season, right? There will be seasons of shift and change. Somebody's going to have to call her on that. Waiting until y'all are in a fight or into a hard disagreement, or everybody's crying or have tears, that's not the season to do that. That's not the moment to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Ultimately, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, can I ask you one more question about, like, this idea of grieving, the idea that, I had a picture in my head, it's not there.
Yeah. And,
like, processing through that. Would you say to go all the way through this idea of, like, grieving the idea? Because I've had my, or what moments, of, like, let's say this doesn't happen, that these take years and years to get through. And ultimately at the end of the day, the decision is like, you know what? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I've had that or what conversation in my head.
Like, would you leave her and go marry somebody else so you can have kids?
Exactly. Yes. Right. And like, I've made the vows that I made to her were not conditional upon that, you know, and that's where I stand with it. Okay. But, do I go through the entire process of, like, grieving the entire idea right now? And if it does work out, great.
That you're not grieving that you're never going to have kids. You're grieving that I had this expectation right here, and it's not. And what you're trying to do is to get your body to stop reacting as though something's on fire. It's not. Yeah, it's already burned down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's something about when somebody calls you and says, hey, your house is on fire, there is a part of your body that goes into DEFCON. I got to get there and get the stuff out. Your body responds differently when someone calls you and says, hey, I'm sorry, there was a hurricane. You lost everything. Everything's ash. That's a sorrow.
Yeah.
That's not a response. That is the depths of grief, not fight or flight. Right now, your body's in fight or flight because you're still trying to make this thing happen, and it's not. It's past. You're 30 years old. You thought you'd have 2 kids by now. You don't. And so there's something about acknowledging the present, the reality of it, and it's going to hurt, man. Reality sucks. Just sitting there and being like, and then there's a period at the end of that sentence. And then the real question is, we're not going back. I'm already 30. I still don't have 2 kids. I don't have 4 kids running around here. The real question is, I'm holding a pen. What am I going to write next? And what are we going to write next? And the good thing for you, Derek, is you've already gone through the or what. Will I leave her? The answer is no. And so now it's about, can we make this work? I want to know, are we going to have children? And it is not about being an actress. That's the proxy. It's not. There's something going on deeper than that. And it probably has to do with her interaction with her parents, whether that was trauma, abuse, neglect, all those things combined. Healing there will be really important. And then having an honest, truthful conversation about, man, everything changes in the entertainment industry, especially when you are an actress, when you're a dancer, when you're do movement. That's a young kid's game, man. Or you transition to different roles that look different, that move on different. All this stuff changes, and it's just being honest about seasons, what seasons we're in, what changes are coming, whether we have kids or not, and then what is a kid actually going to do to that situation? I just know too many actresses that are awesome, they've got kids. Too many people in front of cameras that do great stuff. And they're incredible. But it's easy to get trapped in that scarcity mindset, especially when you're working from a place of trauma. Derek, your wife is lucky to have you in her life, that you love her. I'm going to suggest not talking about kids for a season. Let's get back to healing, because the kids is adding a lot of pressure. Let's get back to healing this childhood stuff, healing this relationship. You grieve your stuff, and let's paint a picture about where we're headed. And let's be really clear about putting stuff on the calendar. If we don't have this by 31, then we're going to try this, and we're going to try that. Here's our combined goals here. And let's move forward there. Thank you so much for calling me. I'm proud of you for doing work with counseling too, man. That is incredible. Awesome.